Hi everybody, it's Sloan and I am back with another video. This one is on the topic and the verbiage to the word occult and what does it actually mean. Well, let me start back with where it started for me last year. I was appearing on a TV show and the host asked me, how do you describe yourself? And I said, I describe myself as a metaphysician. She asked me what that meant, and I said a metaphysician is somebody who is well-versed in the occult sciences and practices, along with New Age theology and what we would consider esoteric arts. She asked me, oh, isn't the occult bad? And that's a natural response from people, I've noticed, especially if their traditional religious background kind of moves them in that way of thinking. And again, keep in mind, whatever it is you practice or whatever your belief system is, I have no bias. You can believe what you want and I can believe what I want. So I kind of approach it from that perspective, but I did want to clear up exactly what the occult sciences are. And they start with three main things. The first of which is astrology, and then alchemy and natural magic. So I wanted to go into those things. And then it harnesses and has been harnessed since the beginning of time into things such as supernatural, paranormal, UFOs, anything that we consider in the white magic realm or the dark magic realm. So what's known as black magic or white magic. And there is a difference. Obviously, they are the balance of each other or the opposite of each other. So people will often say to me, well, you know, certain things don't exist in our society. And I'm like, well, you can't really have A without having an opposition. So all things work in harmony of balance. In other words, there is a counter side to the side that you present. So it stands to reason that there are many different facets to the way that people understand and hear the word occult. Now, having said that, I wanted to get into the terminology of astrology. Astrology is the mathematical movement and charting of the stars through the solar system in the constellations that we know as they exist. Now, the interpretation of astrology is based on handed down information from astrologers and people who have been in the profession based on the mythology of the planets and probably given information that was channeled way back in the day, because there are certain elements of it that have been passed on throughout time, but it is the charting of the stars. So it is listed in all of the religions. I mean, and I can start with, first of all, the three wise men followed the North Star, which is charting the stars on the advice of a prophet. A prophet is a medieval term for a psychic. So in order to find the baby Jesus, they had to follow the stars on the advice of a psychic. And they brought that baby Jesus frankincense and myrrh and gifts, trinkets. So the trinkets were crystals and the herbs and the oils. These are all things that are combined in alchemy. And you can find these throughout all traditional religions. I mean, every single one: Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, spiritualism, witchcraft, even Luciferianism. And I know you guys don't want to answer that, but you don't even want to hear about it. And I know you guys don't want to hear about that, but all religions, and these are considered religions, utilize some form of alchemy in their rituals. Now, what is a ritual? People have asked me that all the time. They're like, oh my God, you do rituals? And I'm like, well, if I pray over my dinner at night, that is a nightly ritual. In other words, when food is presented and people say grace, which is what they called it back in the day, that is a ritual. If you get up in the morning and you stretch and you say, you know, your intention for the day, which is known as setting your intention, or you meditate, these are rituals to harness your energy, which is what alchemy is, which moves us into natural witchcraft. Natural witchcraft is basically using what we are given, what we are born with as a human being, with a soul, with a body's energy, using our mind, body, soul in harmony with the universe around us from behind the scenes, meaning we are not out there televising it to other people in order to harness energy around us and to basically strengthen ourselves in a certain direction. Now, having said that, of course, all of us that watch TV, movies, whatever, we know there is black magic that goes on. What I will say is if there is light, there is dark. If there is yin, there is yang. So you want to look at it as up or down. You don't want to look at it necessarily as I don't want to talk about it, because a metaphysician is a person that explores all of these facets and avenues. So you can't have your mind closed just because at a fundamental level you disagree with some of the theology of the people, situations, and experiences that I'm just explaining at the moment. So when it comes to occult, a metaphysician will keep their mind open to these practices and the psychological effects they have from behind the scenes on the person, people, group, however you want to word that. So you don't ever want to close yourself off. You always want to continue to learn. You don't have to practice, you don't have to partake in, but it is good to be intellectually aware of the different forms that energy takes and how people express their energy and belief systems so that you know what you're dealing with. So that's more along the lines of what a metaphysician is. And an occultist can be anybody really who studies astrology, uses herbs and crystals, and basically sets their intention during a new moon, which is to bring in energy. Now, it doesn't seem so bad. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't. I'm going to go back to the point that it has to do with your intention. So what is your intention as you are doing these things? So when I am reading astrology, and that is known as an occult science. Now, astrology is an ongoing thing, and it's a dedicated practice, and I'm still learning it some 30-something years later every single day. So I follow astrology. Now, is there a negative connotation when I say to you, do you read your horoscope? Because you too are following astrology when you pick up a newspaper and read your horoscope. So is that occult negativity, or is that you reading your horoscope without giving it much more thought about what you're doing? So you see, you can go into the psychology of that, whether that's right or wrong, good or bad. Keep in mind, it is your intention. What is in your heart when you are doing something? So if you are, and I love to use this because during the new moon, during the Chinese New Year especially, I will get my clients that bring me the red envelope with the money in it. That is a ritual that's been handed down. It is their tradition. Are they evil because they're doing this ritual? If you go into a Catholic church during Mass, they are in robes. You are eating the body of Christ and you are drinking. You are waving incense around and you are asking the Holy Spirit to come to you. That is a ritual. And it is also a ritual when all of these other earth religions, paganism, Wiccans, when they basically invoke the energy into the circle. Now, depending on their intention, if you're going to go into something that I consider to be more of a dark focus, but really it's just an opposing focus actually, but however you want to word this, but let's say Luciferianism and you're doing the ritual with that. Your intention is different. Now, two people can do the same ritual, and there's extreme rituals in every group. I know what you all are thinking. There's extreme rituals, and not everybody who is Luciferian is out sacrificing, kittens and people and whatever. And not everybody who is Catholic is actually at Mass doing confession and, has benign confession. Some of them have extreme things and some of them have, light things. It's the opposition. So it is in your intention. So to understand the intention is, where are you coming at the ritual from in your heart? Are you wishing people good, or are you wishing them bad? Are you trying to covet what they have, to be petty, to be greedy, or are you trying to give of self and open your heart? There's kind of two different ways to approach it. So let's look at that from the perspective of a new moon, let's say on the Chinese New Year, and we want to make our whole year really exciting and happy and amazing. So how do we do that? Okay, so how do we do it? Some people would come to me and say, and I have had this happen with clients, I've had to scold them because I don't do the work like this. And keep in mind, just because you go to a practitioner and ask them to do a ritual for you does not mean you're off the hook as far as responsibility on a soul level. I used to have a friend, and she would go to a practitioner to get maybe not so nice spells, rituals performed against people that's jobs she wanted and this kind of thing. And I always asked her, why don't you just do it yourself? Because she knew how to do it. She's like, oh, I don't want that on me. And I'm like, you can't really ask a third party to do your dirty work with the intent in your heart to do it that way and then perform it and you not be responsible. It does not work that way. Even though people think it does. They think their hands are washed and they remain clean if they hire somebody to do their dirty work. I think we saw this in the show The Sopranos. People would stay at home and say, go out and that person should die. And then, of course, they had their hitman and, well, you're still responsible. You orchestrated it. And the same thing works for energy. So let's look at it this way. Let's say you have two people that come to you. One of them wants a spell done because they want love in their life. The second one comes to you, they want a spell done, or they want to know how to do one because they want love in their life, but they have a particular person, and it is their best friend's husband. The first person just wants love. The second person wants their best friend's husband. I have actually had that happen. Now, the person who is trying to break up the marriage so that she can have, because she covets her best friend's husband, is crossing several boundaries here. First of all, the energy that she's focusing on to do that, it can have an effect. But when you manipulate energy, it doesn't last. So you can manipulate a situation and you can have a person come to you, but the manipulation is going to bounce back onto you 3 to 10 times as strong. So what you feel you have from this person that you gain, that you've coveted, or you want from a greed perspective because you want it because they have it, will be taken from you, or something will happen sort of in a reverse to it because you cannot manipulate energy. You can, but there are balancing effects. And that brings me to karma. People ask me all the time, well, so-and-so did this to me and I hope they get their karma. Karma does not work that way. Karma, I want you all to look at karma, and I will do another video, not today, but I will, on karma. Karma is balance. It is balancing the energy. What has flopped down over here is brought back over here and vice versa. So it is a balance. It's not just because your feelings were hurt that God's going to go, yes, I'm going to take that person out because they hurt you. That's a little bit coming from a perspective of ego, and that's not where karma comes from. The secret with karma, which I don't even understand, is in a past life or a past circumstance, and you're in this life and this circumstance, how do you actually know karmically what you're balancing back or not? So we live in circumstances we don't often understand and can't see what we've done or remember, and then we are balancing it back over here, which has always been really confusing to me, and I hope one day they'll explain it to me so that I can understand it. But it isn't a tit for tat thing the way that we like to say it, because I read so many things on Instagram, on Facebook, and they're like, so-and-so did this to me and they're gonna get their karma. As if God works for them personally by striking the other person down because they affected your ego. It is a balance. So there will be a counterbalance or a balance to an action on the opposite end. But we don't know when it comes, and it doesn't come just because our feelings were hurt or not hurt. It happens at a different time, and that's the part that's perplexing even to me. So when it comes to karma, you have to look at it as balance, and not just because your feelings were hurt. That's your ego. Anyway, getting back to the point at hand, when the other woman comes to the practitioner and wants love in her life, she's not specifying what it is she wants, as in, you know, her friend's husband, the guy across the street, the guy on TV, whatever. She's just saying, I want love. A ritual can be done using the moon phases, which is considered occult, but it can be done in a very positive way. What you're saying is, I want love in my life. And there's nothing harmful with that. You're not describing how it happens. You're not manipulating energy and forcing yourself into another person's energy field. You are basically saying, I would like this. So you may light a pink candle. You may put some rose oil in it. You may get some oils, you know, different oils, and you may put your crystals in it, and you may focus on the intention of your candle. You may also write out stuff on a piece of paper because it's a new moon intention, and you may say, I would like somebody that I can be in love with, who is abundant and reciprocal, and I'm happy. Now, when you use the word occult termed to that because of what you're doing, which is considered natural magic, even alchemy, if you're using the oils and you are speaking your intention, plus you're doing it in the moon phases, which is astrology, that can be considered occult, but that's not a negative connotation. So I want you guys to kind of understand the different things of that, so that you can see that there are many different facets and not to shut it down. Now, if you're a very strict traditional religion, none of this is acceptable, and that has to be between you and your God and how you approach things, because a lot of the New Age practices are considered by very, very strict, like strict born-again Christians, Hasidic Jewish people, very, very strict Orthodox Greek people. These rituals are considered negative, and that's their take on it, and they're entitled to it. But when I describe it to you, you're able to see the difference between approaching a ritual or asking for, using moon phases, love in the manner of the first woman that wanted her best friend's husband, and then the second woman who just wants love. There is a difference. So it's the intention in your heart and the boundaries that you set when you're working. This is the first video I'm doing on this topic, and I'm coming back with video number 2 on all the tools that are used with the occult sciences. So once again, my name is Sloan from sloanbella.com.